Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's ARC Facilities webinar, Bridging the Knowledge Gap in Design, Construction, and Facilities Management. So David, going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thanks, Adira, and thank you everybody for joining me today. So we're going to really dive into a hot topic. This has been around for a long time, and it's a lot of the challenges associated with facilities and design construction, and really a lot of the disconnect that we see around the country, different organizations, that there's really a disconnect between those two groups. And so what we're going to dive into here is really what we're going to cover is understanding why accurate building information is critical. All the information for the building, not just the most recent stuff, but all the legacy information as well. Also identifying some of those risks with not having information or even outdated documentation. Also, how to recognize issues from undocumented facilities changes that happen on the daily. Okay. Also, how to review cost impacts from rework and change orders, that dreaded change order that I hear all the time from every group that I talk with. So also learning how poor data affects compliance and safety, and also explore ways to connect construction and facilities teams, bring everybody together. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody's looking at the same stuff, so you can make those educated decisions. And also how to see the value of centralized digital information and documentation. So let's jump in. So this is something I've been just kind of running through my head for a long time, and it's you can't manage what you can't see. So think about that. If I've got blind spots in information or blind spots in my building that I don't have documentation, it can really impact not only my construction facilities or my construction projects, but also the way my team functions. And that cross collaboration between those teams can be impacted. And again, it's really about collaboration. If you get nothing out of this, I hope you understand it's all about collaboration and having everybody on the same page. But again, in construction and facilities, missing building data isn't just an inconvenience, it's a liability. And let me show you what that looks like. So the disconnect often between construction and facilities teams is this. Construction teams rely on up-to-date as-built to design, renovate, and plan safely. Well, but facilities teams are often reactively responding and making undocumented changes to your buildings in the field live. And then they go on to the next thing in their day-to-day. The challenge is without that shared knowledge, without that shared documentation, well, critical knowledge is lost between that handoff and also between projects in a certain area of your building or certain areas of your building. Well, that means renovation projects start with assumptions, not facts. You're assuming that nothing's changed in that space since the last renovation. I got news for you. Stuff changes all the time, changes daily in some instances. It really comes down to knowing what's happened in your building over the life of that building, not just snapshots in time. But real world impacts on some of that inaccurate or missing information is, think about it from mechanical equipment location issues. If you can't find stuff, you don't know what's really out there, whether it's HVAC, pumps, water heaters, it can delay your response time. Think about that. Leaks, failures. Also, if you don't know what's out there, you don't know how old things are that are out there, how can you plan for the future too? From a project standpoint, just from a sheer replacement standpoint, it's those blind spots that I mentioned, but it also can increase downtime and potentially risk of damage if something goes sideways. But also technicians are wasting hours trying to find stuff, especially the new people. They don't know where everything is. They also don't know where everything runs, what serves what areas. They also haven't popped all the ceiling tiles, okay, to find out what's above the grid, but also what's between the walls. They weren't there when you renovated that space, so they don't know if lines are running here or pipes are running here or a stud over. And I jokingly say this, okay, and please take it for what it is. I hear this all the time. They're not as built, they're nearly built. They're not always 100%. Okay, things move, things change, and they didn't get reflected back into that closeout package. That happens all the time. The other challenge with that is shutoff valves and emergency equipment also isn't necessarily in the exact spots that they are on plans, if they're even documented at all. So not knowing where gas, water, power, med gas is located can increase those response times when things go sideways or it's a real emergency. But it creates safety and compliance violations too. But also think about it from the perspective of where are other things emergency related: fire extinguishers, exit signs, strobes, dampers, all the other stuff within your building. If they're not where they say they are, it can cause real challenges with any kind of compliance issues, but also emergency response, which could potentially put lives at risk. Okay. The other challenge is when it comes to change orders and cost overruns. So think about it from a project perspective. How many change orders did you have on your last project? I'm not saying it's for one reason or another, but one of the challenges that we often see is, again, it's project to project, but one of the challenges we often see is change orders are reflected because we didn't know that things were where they are today. Meaning, I didn't know that you guys moved a wall, or you know what, I didn't even get the closeout package from the last project that you guys did 10 years ago. Well, common causes are those structural elements aren't where they show on the plans. Things have moved, things have changed, but also undocumented mechanical reroutes. Lines are in different areas. Piping's in different areas. Ductwork is in different areas. They've been rerouted to other parts of a building to serve those areas. And there's no record of internal team renovations done. Oftentimes, facilities teams will do things on their own. They'll move stuff and it never gets put back into the plans or reflected back into plans that now the design construction team, when they're doing that next project, has access to that information. So they're blind. They don't know. They have no record that that thing's ever been changed. So then when they start demo and they start ripping holes in walls, they're hitting stuff. All right. And the impact on that from the renovation can be work stoppages, delays, okay, and reevaluating scopes of those projects. But also, every change order is money, right? It's added labor, added materials. But the most important thing, time. It always delays projects. I hear this all the time. But some of those cost overruns in real numbers, and these are based off of this study here, and you can see in the bottom right hand corner there, that's the source here, but 86% of projects experience cost overruns. I mean, especially today's market, everything is more than the original bid price. It's just the way it is today. But average cost of overruns from medium-sized projects is 32%. Okay, 31% of projects managed not to exceed their budget by more than 10%. 20% have contingency cost overruns recommended by their lenders. 20%. Think about that. $100 million project, 20 million bucks. 20% of your project budget is being recommended by your lender for contingencies for those overruns. That's a big number. A lot of this, and a chunk of this, I should say, comes down to we didn't have accurate drawings. We didn't have, especially on big renovations, we didn't have accurate information before the project started. It's a big problem. So some of those cost stats, and I'm not going to jump into all of these, but average construction projects experience a 4 to 6% cost increase. I challenge that those numbers are higher today with the current environment, but again, it's trying to get stuff in. I've heard from one of our clients actually said that he's averaging right now between 20 and 35% increases in just his mechanical devices that he's trying to buy from when they originally budgeted the job. That's a big number. That's not typically in the budget, right? So up to 30% of construction project costs are due to rework. And again, these are all source supplied here, but according to FMI Corp, it's the average cost of rework is $17.04 per square foot. That's a huge number. That shocked me. So for a 100,000 square foot facility, that's 1.7 million in potential rework. That's a giant number. And again, these are the sources, but U.S. Department of Energy studies showed that incomplete building documentation adds 10 to 15% to the life cycle costs of the building. These are scary numbers for me. And I challenge you to think of it from the perspective of what does that mean to you? Meaning, are you seeing similar things? These aren't your numbers. These are just average numbers that these organizations were able to pull. But what are your numbers? Really dive into your numbers and figure out what those might be for you. So here's the the magic, challenging, heartbreak words that hit this screen is the unforeseen condition change orders. What that means is I'm a GC, I'm a tradesperson, or I'm working on a project for you. You didn't give me all the documents, so I had no idea, okay, that there was lines running between that wall. So when my guys are swinging sledgehammers doing demo, they're hitting stuff. Everything they hit that you didn't document or show me that it was there or have documentation showing it was there means it's an unforeseen condition change order. You didn't give me the information, so I had no idea. Change order, money. I hear this all the time. And it's all because we don't have the ability to give them all the information. So they got it all up front. So all those unforeseen conditions, meaning I couldn't give them the information, they didn't have the information, means I'm going to be able to charge you for a change order. It's a big thing. And that can be minimized. And I'll show you what that can look like. So this also impacts safety and compliance, and risk is a big thing. It's a real thing. Unknown utility lines pose risk during renovation and demo, but also incorrect fire suppression and life safety paths equal potential liability in emergencies, right? Things are going sideways and I can't even tell people how to even get out of the building. Right? If that's accurate or inaccurate, that's a challenge. So documenting that information as well is a big deal. But also staff, potential patients, if you're healthcare, or guests are put at risk due to inaccessible emergency tools and signage errors. That's all part of a project. Signage is part of a project too. But all of this, because I don't have accurate information or potentially don't have accurate information, can cause safety and compliance risks. So most renovations also mean things moved. It means also more documentation. It means all those rolls of drawings that you've got or all those thumb drives that you've got means changes to your buildings. I've worked with a big hospital account. It's one of our big clients, and they've got multiple locations all over, and they have just literally dozens and dozens of projects going on at any given time, and it's all year long. It's big stuff, little stuff, it's ground up, it's all kinds of stuff. When I just happened to be in the area, I popped in one day and they gave me just baggies. When I say baggies, it's little Ziploc baggies filled to the rim with thumb drives, filled with thumb drives. Okay. Every one of those thumb drives had at least one project on it, right? They had no mechanism. Now they do with us, but before that, they had no mechanism to get all the information on those thumb drives, organize it so my facilities team has access, but also my design construction team has access to all that stuff too. I'll show you what that can look like and what the fix for that can be. But at the end of the day, that's what I see all over the place. I see stacks of thumb drives. I see rolls of drawings all over the place. That's just for the new projects. Now we're going to talk about some of the old project stuff too in a few minutes. But again, it's all that legacy information is siloed. Each one of those thumb drives is a silo. It's a device where information for my building is on a thumb drive. It's someplace where my team can access it. And here's the problem. Those thumb drives, for that client, they don't even have they can't even plug a thumb drive into their laptop. They can't even plug a thumb drive into their iPad or onto their desktop computer because IT's locked it out. So again, how do I even get that information off of there? I'll show you what that can look like, but can you extract that out? And of your situation, can you get all of those documents off of those thumb drives? And where do you put them? Right? Again, who has access to it? And again, who can find that information when it counts? So let's talk about the search too, because again, if I don't know what information is where, I may not know where all the equipment is either. So this is what that looks like. All the information is not documented. So what I do, my team goes out there and starts popping ceiling tiles, or the architect goes out there, or the GC or the engineer goes out there and starts popping ceiling tiles, trying to find information. But at the end of the day, I need to know what's where before I start that next project instead of the hunt, instead of the search, right? I see this all the time. If you notice, this guy pops one ceiling tile, he ended up popping three, right? You can see two are open here, but he had to pop this one to get at this side of the machine, pop that to get to the other side of the machine. All of what I'm showing you here means time. Whether you're design construction, whether you're facilities, this is a time suck for your team. And it's a lot of time. And I'll share what some of those numbers on average look like here in a second. So some of those hidden costs to facilities team is, again, that time loss. Technicians spend 30 to 40% of their time just trying to find equipment. Think about that. 30 to 40% of their day is spent just trying to find stuff. Where's that panel? Which ceiling tile do I pop to find that water shut off or that mechanical equipment? Or I go out to the field and I'm trying to find the AC unit that's supposed to be in a closet, but evidently it moved and now it's in the room next door in another area. Or we actually added a room and blah, 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 blah. Tell your story here, plug and play. The challenge is, again, the team is trying to find stuff. Well, think about that from the new guy. He just started a week ago. Does he know where everything is? How fast can he find if he's on third shift and he's trying to find something because things went sideways in the middle of the night and they need to get the air up and running in a part of a building? Well, a lot of our hospital clients ran into that where they had power go out third shift. Power goes out in the building, okay, in part of the building, and it happened to be some of the ORs. Well, they were prepping for surgeries. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, right? So power goes out. All the charge nurse called was the on-call person. He says, what's the panel, what's the little sticker on the little label on the outlet say? And it was panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it was, okay? All he did was plug it in his phone, hit search for that panel, and it showed him exactly where that panel was, in what room, what floor, in seconds. Before he had a solution for that, he's literally just walking around the building trying to find that thing. So I say that in challenging you to think like this. All right. How many of your panels are behind a door? How many of them are tucked away in those little secret spots that only one guy knows where they are? Well, that's what is taking your team time to go find that stuff. Same thing with mechanical equipment. But also, it's the other challenge is it's causing your team to do potential deferred maintenance, pushing things down the road, because I can't do a PM schedule on something or even set up a deferred maintenance or schedule a maintenance schedule for that piece of equipment if I don't even show that it exists, right? Undocumented systems. I call those ghost assets. They're out there. We just don't know where they are, right? Also can impact regulatory non-compliance. Outdated life safety drawings can lead to citations or even failed accreditation, especially from Joint Commission or DMV. Big deal. That's tied to money. So the other challenge is the vicious cycle, I call it. It's documenting, no documentation of changes the team makes, right? So when's the last time you dug up lines or you had a pipe burst or something like that? Your team fixed it and no one documented it. So now you rerouted lines, they're going in a different area that doesn't show up on any plans. So now 5 years from now, the next project rolls up. There's no documentation. Backhoes out there starting to dig up and rip up the foundations. And what do they find? Lines. They're not documented, but they're there. Change orders. Okay. But also some of those fixes that the maintenance teams make. And again, this isn't pointing fingers at anybody. This is just a daily thing. Things happen. Things get moved. You're fixing things to make sure the building runs smoothly. The challenge is not documenting these is going to potentially hurt you in the future for those future projects. But those renovation teams encounter surprises. Okay. One guy told me, "Oh, that's our gifts for this project." I wouldn't call them gifts. Those are surprises, but more change orders are reflected in those surprises or those gifts, right? Because those gifts don't keep giving, right? Hopefully you're identifying them and you can move on. But the challenge is it's change orders, which is again, undocumented changes that cost you money. So the fundamentals of this, though, really come down to this. 65% of buildings still keep documents in paper. Now, again, new projects, you're probably getting digital. You get a download, you get a thumb drive. Somehow you're getting a digital copy. A lot of organizations are still writing into their specs that at the end of the closeout, they get 3 hard copies and they get them on 2 thumb drives or whatever. Plug your scenario in here. The challenge is, what about the really old stuff? I hear people all the time are saying, they'll say, "Oh, we're requesting a BIM model or a fully articulated BIM model at the end of our project." Yeah, that's great for your new building. That's great for the 3rd and 4th floors that you renovated. What about the rest of the buildings that you've got or the old parts of the buildings that you didn't renovate? A lot of those are tucked away in cubbies like you see on the left-hand side there. That's a problem because every one of those roles there means a change to your building, right? Think about that. It's a change to your building. That's a renovation. That's when you did an HVAC upgrade, you did plumbing, whatever the case may be. But what I oftentimes see too is some of those drawings walked away over the years. An electrical set got pulled, never put back, or maybe the electrical set is one of those additional roles that is supposed to be part of the bigger role there. Again, stuff is all over the place and it's siloed or it's just displaced. It's not in the right spot. But 86% of facilities managers say they don't have instant access to that building information. So when that pipe bursts, like you see there, they're not prepared. They don't know where all the shutoffs are. They don't have all the plumbing drawings showing where those lines run. They also don't have any drawings that show when your team moves stuff 5 years ago, 3 years ago. Okay. But 72% of buildings are over 20 years old and 1 in 3 is over 50, right? Old systems means especially over time, they may have been upgraded. They may have changed. So think about a 50 or even an 80, 90, 100-year-old building. How many times have those buildings changed? Well, that usually is represented by more drawings or just institutional knowledge from guys from 40 years ago. They retired, they left, and all that institutional knowledge walked with them. I look at very much so paper or digital or in somebody's head. That's institutional knowledge for your building, right? And again, accessing that information, getting that information, whether it's in paper, digital, or out of somebody's head is key. And let's take a look at what that can look like. But 20 to 40% of the assets in the field have been replaced, decommissioned, moved, or they're new. Well, were they documented? When you swapped out that air handler on the roof or you swapped out your fire extinguishers, or you know what, we dug up because we had a water leak, we dug up and we replaced this line here. Or you know what, we updated some stuff with the electrical panel. Did you update the panel schedule? Okay. Or you've got that one fan, exhaust fan on the roof that's been decommissioned and we capped it, but we wouldn't have left the thing up there. Well, is that taken out of your database? Or are you still accounting for that thing? Again, it's a problem. Information has to be updated. You have to have a method to do that. But this is the thing. I call this the skull hold, right? He's got his head in his hands. I call that the skull hold. He's frustrated. He's hunting and digging and wasting time. This is on the daily for the facilities team. It's a challenge. It's frustrating because where they grab a drawing and it says something is where it says on the drawing, they pop the ceiling grid and it's not there. So now they start tracing lines. They start looking. They're popping their head up. No, it's 3 rooms over, or that thing was rerouted, a couple years ago. It's frustrating. Okay, but a lot of teams don't have a way to document that either, and we'll dive into that in a little bit. But this is the problem I see when I walk into a facility and I see this. I just kind of shake my head because it's 2025, right? If you're still dealing with this mess, that means your team is digging, hunting, trying to find stuff out of this mess. Look at that pile on the filing cabinet in the bottom left-hand corner. That's stuff that was never refiled. That stuff's probably been there for years. Or all those projects that are in those cubbies up in the upper right, or on those stick files. It's the hidden barrier for efficiency, whether it's design construction or facilities. I talk to vendors, I talk to GCs, I talk to architects, and they tell me that they go spend time in these plan rooms for days, if not weeks, looking for stuff, especially on major renovations of large properties. They're in there digging to the point where they just give up. And then they start going and doing site walks. Again, time. Architects charge you money. GCs charge you money. Trades charge you money. The longer it takes them to do the job, right? But giving them access to all of your historical information, all of your new stuff for your buildings, it all in one spot is going to save everyone time. So the other challenge is, what if this happens? This is a real story, right? Sprinkler head burst at a plan room. Thousands of drawings all over the place, ruined. They were lost forever. One of a kind. Old blue lines, old Mylars, gone. Your historical record for the building, gone. The challenge is you can't get that information back. When they're lost forever, the remaining ones, you got to get those digitized. You got to get those things organized. Don't let this happen to you. If you've got paper, get rid of it. Get the paper scanned in, organized. I'll show you what that can look like. But the other challenge is, just because you scan it, that's not enough. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard from people that say, yeah, we got a bunch of interns came in, they scanned all of our stuff. They didn't rename anything. They just dumped it onto a share drive. And we're going to get at it when we have time. The challenge is they never have time. Time is never on your side in facilities or design construction. So what happens is you've got a bunch of raw scans dumped on a share drive someplace, don't know what building it goes to, don't even know what project, it's not named. The challenge is they end up going back to paper. And that's a challenge. That's a big one, because paper, again, it's not getting any newer. Look at those papers. Look at the blue lines in that drawer there. They're shredded, right? A lot of them are all shredded. That's one of a kind stuff. That's not going to get any better. The challenge is I can't find stuff to do my job. This is what you also see a lot when you get a closeout package. It's on a thumb drive. Okay, it's got a folder, it's got a bunch of stuff in the folder, but someone's got to go find that. It doesn't even tell me what floor this is on. It doesn't tell me, is it the whole building, one room, one area? Okay, what if I've got 15 renovations in that area? How do I know which one's which? Which one's the newest? There's no date on this stuff, so I have to click on them, open each file. Nope, not that one. Open the next one. Nope, not that one. Same thing with drawings. Got to lay them out. Nope, not that one. I'll do the next roll. Nope, not that one. That's how those piles happen. Same thing here. This is another pile. It's just on a share drive someplace. Well, who can access that? Your team's on a roof. They need to access drawings. They're up in a mechanical room on the 5th floor. They need to access drawings. How do they do that? They got to go back to a desktop? Well, the challenge is also this. I got one guy on the team that was here when that thing happened. Let's call Carl. He's the guy that knows where everything is. Plug your person's name in here. Is it Carl, John, Bob, Tom? What's your guy's name? The challenge is everybody's got this guy. He's the guy that knows where everything is. He was there when things went sideways. He's also the one that I walk with when we're doing site walks. that I immediately, when we're doing site walks, mapping out equipment or shutoffs, I look behind a door. I can't tell you how many times I'll be walking with Carl, okay, and I'll look behind a door and I'll see a panel and he'll say, I didn't even know that was there. Well, how many other things does Carl don't remember were there or never even had to work on that thing? One guy knowing where everything is a single point of failure, right? One guy knowing where everything is, but it may be two or three people that know where everything is. So how many of people on your team are this person? And how many years you got left with them? Meaning, are they going to retire in a couple of years, next year, this year, right? What's your plan to get the institutional knowledge out of that person's head? Download that out of that guy or gal's head so that you have that for the next team member that steps up or the next one you hire. Got to have a process in place. So the reality also is many of our customers that we talk to say they're waiting 6 to 12 months before receiving the closeout package. How long are you waiting to get your closeouts? I've got one client right now that's been waiting for almost a year and a half to get a closeout package for a new build, right? What's that delay? Why is that such a delay? Well, they're operating the building for months without those documents. They don't have all that information, so they're operating blind. Also, facilities teams, they are trying to research O&Ms, trying to find that stuff. They're doing Google searches, trying to find stuff on the devices. So the next renovation in many cases will start before they even receive the next one. I see that a lot. So how do we bridge the gap between the old and the new? Well, let's take a look at some of the common facilities challenges. Well, not having processes in place for tracking active construction. Also, current building plans and information are unorganized and not accessible. This is all your historical stuff too. And no system in place to ensure you have access to building plans and information when you need it. Time, when you need it. I need it now. How do I access that information? So the old way is go back to the desktop, right? I forgot my password. Oh, I can't find it. Oh, those files were deleted off that shared drive. That's the one on the left. The guy on the right is accessing everything in the field. He's on a roof. He can see every building, every document, all the historical stuff, all from his iPad, all from his phone, live while he's standing there. Modern teams have instant access to all their drawings too. So again, mobile. Every person on your team has a smartphone, okay? All of them do. Some of them have iPads that you supplied, right? If you haven't supplied iPads, iPads are cheap. Get them. It's an easy tool. It's no different than a wrench. It's easy for your team to be able to access stuff in the field if you provide that tool for them to access it, right? Again, you're spending a lot of money on tools for them, whether it's a wrench, whether it's a socket set, whatever the heck it is, so your team can do their job, right? iPads and phones are also tools for them to do their job. It's just another method to help them fix, repair, or respond when something's going sideways. How they do that is having mapped as-built as well. All the historical changes, all these color-coded areas that you see here represents all those roles, all those thumb drives, all those new projects that you've ever had, including the old stuff, dating back to the first sets that you've got to the newest set, organized by name, date of the project, okay? And what areas were impacted by that. If it's a renovation, it only impacts these color-coded areas, shows your team where every renovation touched floor to floor, year to year, okay? Building to building. So tracking active construction documents, think about that, through an active construction project. So active construction, all your projects available, all of them throughout the duration of your project. So you got here plaza, you've got the cafe upgrades, you've got ADA ramp upgrades, all your projects, all in one spot. All the documentation during construction, all in one spot. Plans, specs, RFIs, discrepancy logs, okay? All the current drawings superseded with the previous sheet. If you got new sets that are issued, they're immediately in the system live. This is during active construction. All your specs, they're also linked to the actual spec documents, right? Also, RFI logs linked to the RFI, all the responses for all of this, all included in there. Everything's in one spot, project to project. So again, not just a snapshot in time or waiting for that new set to be emailed to you. No, it's live. But this is one of the most important things that I want to show here too, discrepancy log. Being able to see what is not jiving in this project, things that are not right in this project, a constant running log showing everything that's discrepancy or identified as a discrepancy in the entire project through the duration of the project, all in one spot, all the information. But here's a big thing too. All of this, you're not waiting on your closeout package at the end for your facilities team. When the project's done, this is building your closeout through the duration of the project. Your team now has access. Your maintenance team has access to this day one. You get the keys to the building. Here's all the information. This may not be 100% all the documents. You may be waiting on some O&Ms, okay, or something like that. But this is all the historical stuff during the build of that building. And then as soon as it's done, it's migrated over, and you'll see what that looks like here in a second. But access to all the changes during the project live, always live, up to date. Also, no need to wait for that closeout package. There's no 6 to 12 month delay in getting your closeout package. You're having it immediately. All of it's current, all in one spot. And now you're just waiting on those odds and ends instead of drawings for the buildings, instead of specs for the buildings. They're all here. Everything's live. And what that looks like here is, again, this is your current state before the building was started that renovation for this floor. There's the new project. Okay. Again, what happened before the project? The new project's done. It's layered on top, and it shows you where that renovation in 2025 for this lab remodel or whatever your project is. Okay. It's now here, all live immediately. Okay. Big deal. All the new renovations added fast. So start documenting where your equipment and shutoffs are located today. Okay, why are you waiting? There's methods for you to do that, and I'll show you what that looks like. But at the end of the day is, where's all of my equipment, where are all of my shutoffs? Now my entire team, not just my design construction team, but also my facilities team, has live, accurate information. When I change something, I can change it in the field live. But imagine having all of that at your fingertips. Remember, I said everybody's got a smartphone. Well, if you've got tablets too, they're accessing this stuff in the field, in that mechanical room, on the ladder, on the roof, wherever the heck they are, they can see everything and also add any additional details that are relevant. Meaning, I'm going to swap out some air filters. Great. Let me take a photo of the air filter and attach it to that pin that shows that location for that piece of equipment. You know what? Matter of fact, it also uses the thermostat, and it also uses this belt. Great. Photos of the actual device or actual filter, actual thermostat, photos of that piece that they're repairing or they're doing for their PM live, hit save, everybody sees it. All the information stays with the building, not with just a person. So what you're creating here is that single source of truth. Access to accurate information from the get-go. Day one, everybody has access, not just to the legacy drawings, also all the current drawings for the construction projects. When they wrap up, they're all here. Everybody has access to it live. So critical building information is available 24/7, 365. Everybody should be able to access this no matter where the heck you are. You're on a roof, you're on a ladder, you're at home, you're a GC, you're an architect. Everybody would have access to all that historical information live so they can act immediately. Again, time is never our friend in facilities. When things are going sideways, you got to get it up and running quickly, right? So your staff can act immediately when they have access to the information on their phone, on their tablets. Information no longer exists only in one person's head. Again, I challenge you to think how many people on your team are the go-to people, all right? And I use that with air quotes here, go-to people. They're the ones that everybody calls. They're the ones that they call even when that person's on vacation. That shouldn't be the way it is. Those are single points of failure. I got news for you. If Carl wins the lottery, Carl's not coming to work on Monday. Sorry. Carl's out. Carl's put in his time. He's done. Carl's tired, right? Get that information out of that person's head so everybody has access to it live. But critical information is at everybody's fingertips, including first responders and other stakeholders in your organization. So again, you can share this information out with whoever needs access to that information live, and you can control who can do that. So what's at stake is really risks and impact. Okay, I love to show this side by side here. So change orders, cost overruns and delays. Safety issues, increased liability. Compliance failures, accreditation risk, especially in healthcare. Okay, inefficiencies, wasted time, and also resources, right? Money. Knowledge loss equals turnover, retirement vulnerability, single points of failure. All of these lead up to, you got to make a change. If you haven't started going down this road, you need to get there, and you need to get there quickly because time is not on your side. Your buildings aren't getting any newer. Your equipment's not getting any newer. And I got news for you. Carl's not getting any younger. All right. He's getting closer and closer to that retirement when you're going to get him, throw away that, throw that pizza party for him on his last day, whatever that is. Okay. But at the end of the day, all the information should live with the building, not with a person, not on just a share drive where only a handful of people can access it, and sure as heck not in paper on rolls in a plan room someplace. Get it so everybody on your team and all of your contractors, everybody would be able to access the information they need to do their jobs. So set your teams up for success. Cannot drive this point home any harder than I'm about to. Invest in centralized digital access to accurate building documentation. Everything in one spot. Everybody has access to the information. All of your team, the new guy, the guy who's been there for 40 years, 30 years, a record I've heard within an organization was a guy who had been there for 47 years. Think about that, 47 years. I was actually talking to a hospital this week on my my podcast. I was interviewing him, and he said he's got 5 guys on his team that have been with the organization longer than he's been alive. Think about that. All right. That's 40 plus years of institutional knowledge, right? When that's gone, there's no one to get that stuff out of their heads, right? But this helps you close the loop between construction and maintenance teams. Everybody's on the same page. All the changes that design construction make, all the facilities maintenance team changes, everybody's looking and has full transparency as to what everybody's doing and all the historical stuff that's changed. Train your facility staff on documenting these changes. Make sure you put tools in their hands so they can do that. Make it part of your standard workflow. This is just part of their job, right? They're filling out work orders all the time. Well, while they're standing in front of an air handler and they're fixing something and they put in a part, take a picture of it, hit save, and everybody can see what the heck that is that they added. They're not having to go up that roof ladder, pop that hatch, go out there, figure out what filter they need, what belt they need, and then go back down, go back to the parts room, grab that stuff, go back up. It's time. That's that 30 to 40% of their time that I mentioned at the very beginning. But most importantly here, and this is 100%, is instant access to all your building information 24/7, 365. Wherever the heck you are, you should be able to access all that information. You don't live at your office, right? You may feel like it, but you don't live at your office. Things don't also break at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. Okay. They break at 2 a.m. on Christmas Day, right? You need to be able to roll out of bed, grab the stuff, grab your phone and see everything that you need to be able to respond before you even jump in the car and run to the office, right? Everybody's on the same page. Everybody's looking at accurate building information. So, Indira, let's open it up to some questions.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Yeah, I've got several questions and comments here. I'll get to as
Great.
many as I can. One question is, this is the sort of a comment and a question. this is the actual scenario. Well said. How do we resolve this practically?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to is you gotta take steps to get there. Okay. And you have to acknowledge what do they say? The first thing is acknowledging you've got a problem in the first place. Um, if you're dealing with paper, you're dealing with knowledge loss for people that are about to retire or have retired. That's the first step. Okay. The second step is you got to get rid of that paper. You got to get it organized all in one spot. You've got my contact information here. Happy to help. Have that discussion with you. Call me, email me, text me. Happy to help. At the end of the day, what it really comes down to is you got to take that step. You got to take that leap. And there's different ways that you can approach that, and we're happy to take a look at that with you. It's a journey.
All right. And the next question is, can you clarify the discrepancy log? Is this a log of changes or a log of changes that are made from the plans?
This is all the changes in the plans are in the it's under plans. It's a superseded sheet. So anytime a new sheet is issued, it's automatically slip sheeted in, and all the other stuff, the historical stuff stays there. The discrepancy log is when our team is going through the plan sets during the active construction or through RFIs or ASIs, any of the additional information for that project, anything that we identify that is not accurate or it's missing, or maybe there's sheets that are missing, whatever, that's all identified in that list, and that's a running list. So as things are identified, and the GC has access to that, the owner has access to that, the trades have access to this entire thing, but at the end of the day, that's a running list of what the status is on certain things that we've identified are missing or are discrepancies in the project, whatever that is. And it's all in that list. And you can see that running total of what's going on. And that will ebb and flow as things are addressed. They fall off.
Okay, and a follow-up question from the same person is, what is a typical time frame it would take to start up on getting the information updated and electronic for a building older than 20 years old?
Yeah, it really depends on what it is. I mean, if you're talking a hospital that's, 1 million square feet, it's going to have a lot more stuff. Okay. But scanning that documentation in, organizing that information, usually it's within 90 days, 90 to 120 days, depending on what the building is. Most buildings are inside of that. Okay, especially small buildings, that's quick. At the end of the day, in your hands delivered, you're talking inside of 90 to 120 days. Simple. Done. Now, for active construction projects, we take those on live. So we're added to the distribution. We start gathering that information off those distribution channels and then compiling it into what I showed, where all those projects are. So you got all the documentation, project to project, all of that. We're just adding that, and we're doing that live on the fly. So any kind of new correspondence that happens throughout the week, throughout the year, throughout the duration of the project, we grab all that information, compile it, and we have teams that do this, and they actually are compiling all that information, and then they transfer it at the end of the project closeout. They transfer it over to the other side, which is a new layer in there that you'll see.
Awesome. Well, here's a question sort of related to that. We have over 120 active projects on our books. Is there a limit to the number of projects included in your system?
No, there's not. No, there's not at all. We've got clients that are doing well over 200 projects across a healthcare network. There's no limit on the projects, and it's an ongoing thing where we actually go in. We've got, again, teams that grab all those documents project to project, and we assign groups associated with that to manage those active projects. And there's redundancies as well.
Okay, and just a reminder, if you have questions, please put them into the Q&A. We'll try to get to those. Excuse me. This is a comment, David. Someone said, it's time to regulate building audits.
I agree. I agree. The challenge is who's going to do it? Is it going to be the facilities maintenance team? Is it going to be design construction, combination of both? It's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day, and she's part of it. I don't want to divulge any names, but she's part of a huge university system, and they've got 400 buildings. I can't remember the exact number that she said. And she said, yeah, I'm doing audits of our buildings for all of our mechanicals. I said, so like an FCA? She goes, well, kind of. I'm just supposed to identify where they all are. I said, how many buildings do you have? And she said, like 300 or 400. I can't remember. And I said, how many people are on your team? She goes, oh, it's just me. Thinking, holy
Oh,
cow. I said, well, how many buildings do you think you're going to be able to do a year? She said, well, I think I can do probably 20 a year. I'm calculating that in my brain as she's saying that. And I'm thinking, how many changes are going to be made to the buildings by the time you get back to the original 20 or 30 that you did in the first place? Okay. Years it's going to take for somebody to do that. That's not a realistic expectation. To your point about auditing, this should be an ongoing thing. And that through our system that I showed, people change equipment out weekly, monthly, annually. As things swap out, the team can update it live in the field, hit save, and everybody sees it. So it's an ongoing audit. That's what you want to get to, and that's what we're actually providing.
great. Yeah. Here's another comment, and I'm interested to hear your take on this, David. As operators of facilities and facilities maintenance, we agree with the problem. The problem I've been experiencing is upper executives understanding and approving a better system.
Yeah, I think that, again, this is I actually did a whole other webinar on the selling to leadership. And the challenge is exactly right. It's most senior leaders within an organization don't understand facilities. You're behind the scenes, you're behind the curtain. Your job is to make sure the building's running and address any emergencies. The challenge is when you need something or some way to make you and your team more efficient, it can be a little bit of a hurdle to explain that to somebody. I've had clients that are actually utilizing our system right now to identify, hey, I need to have a new air handler. Okay. In our system, they're actually showing where the air handler is on a floor plan. And they actually are able to, with our markup tools, cloud the area that's impacted by that particular unit if it goes down. In some cases, it's an OR. Some cases, it's a whole wing of a building or whatever. It's always good to show when that thing goes down, it impacts the CEO's office or CFO's office or whatever. But as far as selling it upstream, selling software upstream, what I've often referred to with my clients anyway, is that have been successful in getting it approved. It's really comes down to this. Listen, my guys, I'm losing guys, and if I lose them, it means X. Means we're going to have pay overtime. We're going to have to do, more deferred maintenance, whatever the case may be. I recommend you give me a shout. Happy to reach out, happy to talk to you about it, and I can share some of those best practices with you.
Yeah. And another thing here is we are about to lose 4 guys with over 30 years of institutional knowledge. How long does it take to map these things out?
Yeah, it's a lot of bandwidth about to walk out the door for sure. Like I said, usually it's 90 to 120 days. One thing I didn't clarify right out of the gates with getting the baseline set up, our team comes out and does those site walks. We map out gas, water, power, med gas, all the mechanicals. We're not popping every ceiling tile, but we're identifying where stuff is, usually walking with a lot of those guys that are walking out the door or about to walk out the door, is to capture all that institutional knowledge. But then we train the team that's left how to update and add stuff. We're going to miss something. Okay. Or you're going to move something. We teach your team how to make those changes and add stuff as they find stuff too. If they're up on a ladder and they're working on a smoke detector, they turn their head around, there's a valve behind them, or there's something that's not in the system currently, they can actually take their phone out of their pocket, put a pin, take a picture, document what it is. It's water, gas, whatever it is, or a unit, an HVAC unit. They can document where it is. And now it's there. Even if they don't know exactly what that serves, I know there's a valve there. That's getting me, and again, building off of that baseline that our team establishes. And we go up on the roofs, we go in all the mechanical rooms. What I oftentimes see though is a lot of the lists that clients have are out of date, meaning equipment lists. They're just a mess. I was actually talking to somebody the other day that was a prospect. They've switched CMMSs 4 times in the last 15 years. Think about that. 4 completely different systems, 4 completely different asset numbers associated with their mechanical equipment. It's no wonder that they're a mess. The challenge is we feel verify what's out there against their list, and we capture anything that's missing off their list or anything that's been changed off of their list. So now you have accurate information. It's a baseline of accurate moving target, so to speak, as you move forward with your implementation. But as the building changes, this changes too.
Right. Okay. Another question here is, what is the best way to keep change orders to a minimum?
That's a good one. It first of all, provide them all the information you can up front. Okay. Change orders are going to happen. Gosh, especially when it comes to not being able to get certain things right now. I was just talking to a school up in Colorado, and he was telling me, listen, he goes, we're in a battle right now because again, summer is when they do all their projects. They're having trouble sourcing information, not information, I'm sorry, sourcing materials. So trying to get tile, trying to get certain things that they originally scoped or they didn't have enough. They're having to go back in and do change orders because they can't get some of this stuff. Okay. That has nothing to do with the documents. The challenge with documentation, though, is again, if they're starting with blind spots, they don't have all the documentation over to their GC, over to their architect before the project starts. That's tough. I mean, it's really tough because again, the information you gave them, if there are missing spots that reflect that there's lines running in the walls here, or there's air conditioning systems have been swapped out or whatever, those are those unforeseen condition change orders I was mentioning. So I highly recommend that you moving forward that you address that by getting everything digital organized like I showed.
Awesome. And then I have a comment here, David. We write contingency funds into our project budgets, and it can be up to 20%. I could see this helping us come under budgets.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, I 100% agree. I mean, that's the goal. You want to be on time or on time and under budget. And if this helps you mitigate some of those potential change orders, which means you don't have to use all those contingencies, that's a win. I look at that very much so as a win.
Awesome. Well, there may be a couple of questions that I wasn't able to get to, but typically we will get back to you in a one-to-one email. So we'll make sure to address your questions. And for those who are asking to see more of, because I know, David, you had showed a lot of some screenshots, and some people wanted to clarify, what software was that coming from?
Yeah, that's our software. Essentially, that's part of what we do. It's a SaaS model, so we're software, and then we also have the component where we come on site and we map out that stuff. So that's part of the service of what we do as well, and ongoing training and all of that's included. But again, we right size it for your organization so that we make sure that we're able to help you.
Yeah. Okay, great. So that is ARC Facilities software that David was showing for people who wanted to see more. You could click, you could go to our website, request a demo. Generally, it's more of a discovery call to learn more about your organization, get you, we can ask you questions, kind of figure out, like David said, what makes the most sense and how we can help.
Yeah,
So
we're
feel
happy
free
to
to,
help.
yeah, feel free to reach out to us at this hear what you see on the screen, and also reach out to David, connect with him on LinkedIn. Again, if you haven't already checked it out, the Facility Voices podcast, really great guests David has on there, talking about real world facilities, everyday things that is helpful. So check it out if you can. You can find it on all the major platforms. And we will be sending a recording of this. If you don't receive it in the next few days, feel free to email us at solutions@arcfacilities.com. David, anything else? We're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
No, thank you everybody for joining. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. We're always happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We appreciate your time. Bye-bye.